Hello, my name is Svetlana Stone. You are watching Artist Voices, where we believe it's essential for artist voices to be heard. And we are pleased to have Piper Meldrum-Roy here tonight to talk about what does it take to be a musician in the 21st century. Thank you for being with us. And Piper, how was your morning?
It was really nice. Thank you for having me. But yeah, the morning was really nice. I like waking up with the rain. And day to day, during the weekday, I have so many early classes, so I have to kind of get up and go, and I don't have time to rest. So that was very nice this morning.
Rain is awesome.
Yeah.
So tell us about yourself. You mentioned that you're taking classes, and how you, tell us more about that.
Yeah, of course. So right now I am studying music education and cello and Spanish at Western Michigan University. So I do a lot with cello performance, but also a lot of teaching for the music education aspect of things and Spanish study. So it's a pretty loaded degree, so that comes with a lot of activities, but it's a lot of fun. I'm glad I
And you're local? Are you from Kalamazoo or other place in?
Right, so I'm from Muskegon, so not too far from Kalamazoo, and I've really enjoyed being here for school these past 2-3 years. I feel like it's a really nice place full of the arts and arts education, and there's different programs and opportunities here that I didn't see in other places, so it's been nice.
And how you end up to choose you choose cello? Why this instrument? Can you tell us more about this?
That's a good question.
Who
I always like to tell my students that, and everybody, that cello is the instrument that most closely resembles a human voice. So that's why a lot of people feel a strong emotional connection to it. They'll listen to recordings of Yo-Yo Ma, other cellists, and really feel moved by the instrument. And I chose it pretty early on in the 3rd grade. We were able to choose our string instrument, and I think it was just the sound that drew me to the instrument and made me choose it, and I'm glad I did.
So how did you tell to your parents? Were they excited?
Yeah.
What was the conversation?
Yeah. Well, in the school I went to, I was very fortunate. It was a small school, but the strings program was really nice. So we started violin in 2nd grade, and then in 3rd grade, everybody had to do string instruments, and they got to choose one. And so it was just a natural part of my schooling, so it wasn't a big thing. Of course, my parents had to pay for renting the instrument, but they were happy to do it because I was very motivated to learn.
And then you decided to continue your education. So why in music?
Why music?
Why music?
Right. So early in my high school career, like about 9th grade, I started getting more into cello performance, and I wanted to pay for different activities like a community orchestra or private lessons. And so my orchestra teacher suggested that I start teaching my own private lessons to the younger students in the school. And so I started doing some of that. I would take 5 younger cello students a week and just do short lessons with them. And I really enjoyed that time. And yeah, my former high school orchestra teacher was really great with giving me opportunities to teach. I would teach after school classes. I taught a little French class. My French teacher was also very helpful with that. So I feel like all of the teaching experience was something I was really interested in. And music is just a great pathway for teaching, and I'm really passionate about it, and I like seeing others being passionate about it. So, yeah.
And you said you're really passionate about music. And why do you think music is important in our life?
Well, of course, we've heard it a million times. Music is a universal language. Anybody can understand it. And as someone who I am very emotional, and I like, feeling very passionate about things, and I think that's what drives people naturally. It's not money or material items, but it's how we feel when we're making music, when we're collaborating, and I feel like that's a big thing now in music today, is it's all about collaboration, and that's what keeps it going and alive.
And what is your favorite part before the performances, and after performances?
Oh, that's a good question. So, I actually am a big fan of rehearsals. I love rehearsing, especially when you're because I perform in orchestra settings when I'm with a conductor who I trust, who keeps things fun, and has a clear musical, artistic vision. That's really fun. And I do a lot of chamber music, so working in smaller groups. Like I mentioned, collaboration, that's a big part of it, is working with them to really deeply understand the music that we're going to perform. And then, of course, after the performance, it's almost cathartic to be done after working so hard on the technical aspects and then the big musical picture and finally doing the performance. And at the end, you're done. You can relax and think about the next thing. So
You mentioned that you collaborate with other musicians. Is it there's are some challenges working with others? If yes, what they are, and if there's also rewarding
yes, yeah,
for doing that.
Yeah, that's very true. I think the biggest issues I can encounter is when people are not accommodating because we all go through rough patches. We have other conflicts we're dealing with. And when we get into a rehearsal space, sometimes it's hard to shed that and to just focus on the music. And so I think, and I use this in the classroom too when I teach, sometimes you need to make time to recognize that we're all feeling different things. Some of those might be negative emotions, and work through those together and be understanding and accommodating for those situations, and then make music in a more meaningful way. And then, of course, yes, there are lots of rewarding aspects. While it would be fun to put on a completely solo recital or concert or performance, it's also very lonely. And while I like my individual practice time, I definitely get the most out of the music when I'm working through it with someone else.
And before our interview, we've talked about movies and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
you mentioned, I asked you, do you like movies? You said yes, but I have no time to watch this. And could you share what is a typical routine for a musician, you know, from the beginning to the end before it's performed? What is an effort? How long it's to take to learn the piece before you perform?
Well, and I think it depends on your discipline a lot because I know musicians who are vocalists and who play many different instruments where you can't practice for 3 hours a day. It's just not sustainable. Whereas with string instruments, it's encouraged that we practice like at least 3, if not 4 or 5 hours a day. Yeah, as a music education student, that's not possible. So I do what I can every day. I do a little bit of technique on the instrument, and I take things slowly and listen to recordings and it depends how long it takes me to learn a piece, how much time I have in my day to commit to it. But it could take like up to a month, maybe only 2 weeks, depending on how short it is. But yeah, it's just I used to take rest days. During the week, I'd be like, okay, here's one day where I'm not going to practice. But now, just because of my busy schedule, I'll do as much as I can every day. And yeah, I feel like that keeps me more motivated to keep learning.
Do you remember the most challenging moment in your life and how you overcome that connect to music?
So I think a lot of people my age would have this answer, but definitely COVID-19, that was a really difficult time because it was my senior year of high school, and I had so many things to look forward to. I had won the solo act of my high school talent show, and I was going to be able to perform my concerto movement on a really big stage in front of a bunch of people and maybe win some prize money. That was coming up. I had also planned a musical fundraiser for 2 years that was supposed to happen. So all of these experiences that I thought would be capstones of my high school career didn't end up happening because of COVID. And of course, we talked about musical collaboration, and that was impossible during this time. So all of that was really difficult, especially for music. And before that time, I had never struggled with things like performance anxiety or feeling inadequate in my technical abilities. But I found that after that, I did a couple of competitions and performances, and it was something I really had to deal with, the performance anxiety, in a way that I never had before. So I was completely unprepared. But I feel like that challenge specifically has helped me grow as a musician, because it's a different level of playing when you feel anxious beforehand and during the performance, and there's different things to think about in the preparation when you know you're going to be on edge.
So you talk about an anxiety. So people see all musicians are smiling and performing, but nobody knows what is going on inside, right? How they feel.
Yeah, that's true. And there's different ways, especially string players like to joke around because our bows will shake or our left hand is doing crazy things because we might be nervous. So like I said, a lot of that is mental preparation, not just practicing the things I'm going to perform slowly and intentionally, but also thinking through it. And a lot of what I do now to prepare for a performance I know I'm going to be anxious for is visualization exercises. So I'll sit down with the instrument and imagine the crowd and the stage and everything that's going to be there. And then I'll start to play, and you can kind of simulate some of the anxiety.
And you mentioned that you do teaching to students, right? What would be the piece of advice would you give it to them and other students who decided to be a musician to prepare them for?
Yeah, so I think a lot of what I do with my students is when I work with them, it's all about giving them the tools they need to be successful and confident in their abilities. I feel like a lot of it is about being sure of yourself, and maybe you don't know exactly what you want to do with your music, but you know that you love it, and you feel really confident in your abilities and in your passion. So, yeah.
And how is this society can support musicians, what it would be, so musicians feel supported and understood?
Right. I think there's a lot of different disciplines, a lot of different areas for musicians today, and I think funding is a big thing. I know a lot of friends who have applied for grants to get their music and their arts out into schools, which I think is really important. And speaking of schools, I think a lot of it is investment in music education, public music education, for sure. And I say that as a future public music school teacher, but that's really important. And yeah, because I think a lot of people tend to think that there's no money in music, but that's absolutely not true. There's many different opportunities, and I think there can be more, and we need to be supported. We spend so many hours a day, so much time a year on our instrument and our musical growth, and I think that needs to be recognized, and we should be compensated. It should be a viable career option for anybody who wants to do it.
You should be recognized as a regular job, so exactly. Not just treated as a hobby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think it's important.
Absolutely.
And I also want to ask you if you would be able to write one song that would be everyone in this world would be able to hear it, what this song would be about, or music?
That's a good question. I'm not much of a composer, but a be about music. I think that it would be about, at least personally for me, nostalgia, because I know that music can connect a lot of different people to their pasts, where they came from, and things that they might be homesick for. And I've had very visceral experiences with music in that way, where it takes me back to a time that was really special to me. So I think it would be about nostalgia. It would be a bit.
That's a beautiful name.
Yeah.
For
right?
your future music.
Could
Yeah,
be, yeah.
I love it. I love it. And Piper, where people can find information about you so they can start follow and find more about your performances and about your music.
Yeah, so I am most active on Instagram at Piper Alice, a pretty simple username, and I'll post about my future concerts and recitals, which I actually have one coming up on April 13th at 7:30 p.m. So that will be at Dalton Center Lecture Hall at the School of Music on Western's campus. But it will also be live streamed on YouTube, and people can find the link on the WMU School of Music YouTube. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Is there anything else you would like to add, something that we missed?
I think this was great just for younger musicians or people who are parents or guardians of younger musicians. Just know that in Kalamazoo, there's so many different opportunities for the arts. I work for Kalamazoo Kids in Tune and Orchestra Roa, and those are both wonderful options for after-school musical growth for your child or a young musician or future musician that you might know. So
that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Piper, for coming and joining us. It was very good to learn about you, about your music. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, this concludes this episode edition of Artist Voices. We are thanking Piper for being with us tonight at Public Media Network, where we believe it's essential for artist voices to be heard. Thank you for being with us, and see you next time.